It's the Devy Digest powered by League Winners. I'm Andy, and we're talking buy now players before the prices go up. We're talking the 2024 rookie class, the Devy assets, the CFF assets, and I have a special guest today. We cover all this and more after the intro. What is going on, everyone? I am joined by none other than Nino Brown. Nino, what's going on, man?
What's going on, my guy, Andy? How we doing?
We're doing good, man. Are you excited for the show today?
Absolutely. I appreciate and I love reading any type of thing that you put out there. I think you're super knowledgeable. I love how you break down players. It's an honor for me to be on the show with you.
I really appreciate the kind words, man. Now, what's going on with you? Tell the people about yourself, how you got into content creation, all that good stuff.
So I was probably like most people, around COVID, just got bored, was watching more things not working. But like I've been playing fantasy and watching college football for a long time. I just got tired of saying to myself, that guy's wrong. Like whatever he just said doesn't even make sense, and like in my head, I'm like, nobody's gonna listen to me. Well, why would I even do it? But then after a while, when you get the time, right? I had opportunity with Towards the Titles to get on with like a mock draft, and I was on live in the video, and we just started chopping it up. And shout out to Coach Steps over at Towards the Titles. I was able to work over there for a year and get in that realm. But college football's just always been my love. It's just different. They playing. I used to say they were playing to make a paycheck. Now they're already getting paid. But when I was watching, when you were watching it, and we were really getting into it, they were playing to get to that paycheck. And I always had a strong special place in my heart for that. And now I'm just a sicko. High school kids I'm diving into, and it never stops. Under Armour games and Hulu Bowls, and luckily I get in 5 days I get to take a ride down to Mobile, Alabama, and go to the Senior Bowl for the second year in a row. So I'm gassed to do that.
That should be way fun.
Yeah.
Now, are you ready to hit some quick hitters for the day?
Let's do it.
All right, man. So first off, we got 2024 freshman quarterback Damon Williams Jr. He transfers to Washington from Arizona. Washington, Will Rogers, he decides to withdraw from the portal, so he's going to be staying at Washington. There'll be a quarterback battle right there. 2024 freshman Julian Sayin transfers to Ohio State. Fellow incoming freshman quarterback Aaron Nolan says that he's going to stay at Ohio State. So they're going to battle it out to see who can get the second starting job for the spring game, and then hopefully they'll make a decision there. Now, Texas State quarterback TJ Finley transfers to Western Kentucky. Nebraska quarterback Chua Purdy transfers to Nevada. San Jose State running back Wally Conley, who was at Utah Tech 2 years ago, ran for over 800 yards this past season, enters the portal. Wonder if he follows his coach to Arizona. San Jose State wide receiver Nick Nash, who blossomed as the wide receiver one role this past year, he also enters the portal. Wonder if he goes to Arizona and pairs up with Ted McMillan. Washington wide receiver Jeremy Bernard transfers to Alabama. And then we have a Senior Bowl report. Xavier Legette comes in at under 6'1". Now, Nino, what do you want to talk about with these quick hitters?
First of all, the Williams Jr. transfer. You're looking at a kid, 10,000 yards in high school, right? 93 touchdowns. I want to say it was less than 20 interceptions. This is a true dual threat QB who has going to have an opportunity to win that role. I understand, Rogers is there. That was just such a weird situation, right? I'm in the portal. I'm out the portal. I'm going to stay for the new coaches introductory conference, but I don't know where I'm going to go. Obviously, like we just said, he's staying, but I really think that Williams Jr. has a legitimate chance to take that QB1 role. He gives him a little bit more of that mobility. He can throw it off all platforms, right? He rushed for almost 1,000 yards. Like this kid can literally take over the game with his arm and with his legs. So I think that's huge. Andy, do you really believe Aaron Nolan's staying?
No.
Oh, thank you.
No.
There's a window coming. There's a window coming. I got a good feeling this kid's going to be in that window.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see him beating out Julian Saying. I've been on record saying Julian Saying is the most ready freshman to take
Yes.
over the job. And so
Yes.
I don't think he is going to beat out Julian Saying at all. And I think he does end up transferring out. I think he'll transfer out in the spring when he realizes that he's probably going to be third, if not fourth, on the depth chart.
Yeah. I think he ends down south somewhere. Maybe Miami, maybe Florida State.
Yeah.
Because he's got a year to just learn, absorb under some vets, and then, possibly just take over and run with it. But I don't see him staying there. I love Aaron. I loved him going to Ohio State. I know he was one of the last guys to actually finally commit when the whole process was going on. But I think, if you believe that he's staying, anybody watching the show believes he's staying, you're fooling yourself. The other thing I love that you mentioned was the Qual Conley. Like, Qual Conley was RB2 who ran for 863 yards. Like, this kid was legitimate. They were doing it was Robinson and him, and they were doing dual sets, and both of them were eating. Jonah Coleman's gone. Arizona needs a running back to fill that role. Oh, Michael Wiley is gone. There is no legitimate starter in that backfield for Arizona. That would be plug and play, and let's go. Like you said, Coach there, Brett Brennan is now the coach over there. So I would love for him to end up in Arizona. I just think that would be huge. Bernard going to Alabama. Wow. Right. The rich get richer. It's just how it works. They lose Nick Saban. They kind of get stabbed a little bit with, people leaving for the portal, and they just find a way. I thought Bernard would have been a huge skyrocket at Washington had he stayed, right? Whether it was Mac, whether it was Rodgers, whoever it was that was going to be the QB. But I think him going to Alabama, he fills into that Brooks role instantaneously.
Yeah, I think with Alabama, I think that's going to be a pretty interesting room with their wide receivers. You have Jalen Hale, who probably is going to be the wide receiver one, and then you have Jeremy Bernard, who goes in. When this was before he committed, or before he even entered the portal, I was saying that Kendrick Law is a Jeremy Bernard clone, and that with Kalen DeBoer, with him being at Alabama, that Kendrick Law, that's a stock up because he will be used like Jeremy Bernard. Guess what? Jeremy Bernard is now here.
Yeah, that's that late portal window. Again, it's very, very possible. DeBoer wants his guys. What DeBoer is doing is so Saban-esque, right? Going and getting these dudes in coaching that are known for what they do. Plug them into their position. Let them handle that position. You will coach, and then you just get the best pieces on your team. And he seems to be doing that. Law is definitely a clone of Bernard. They have very, very similar size, statures, the scheme they run, the way they play, in and out. He fumbled the ball, and they still tried to scheme him up in Alabama the last 2 weeks. They tried to find ways to get him. I was hoping that Kobe Prentice would get a little bit more shares, knowing that Brooks had entered the portal. It didn't seem to, but they didn't throw the ball that much. In the second half, they got to Kobe Prentice a little bit to get 2 targets and 1 reception, but it'll be interesting. They got a lot of things to work out at Alabama in this short window between, one portal to the next.
Yeah. Now, for today's show, we are talking buy now players. Now, we are talking about players where you can buy relatively cheap, and we should buy them now before the prices go up. Now, we're going to first talk with the 2024 draft class rookies. Nino, what quarterbacks are you buying?
I mean, I'm going to go off, chalk. Everybody's talking Bo and Penix and that caliber guys, obviously Caleb and all that. But I'm going to talk about a guy that people have thrown to the trash. And for some reason, I feel like, and I kind of said something like this in the last show I was on my buddy KT. People, when they're watching film, that says they're watching, when you go to a 3D movie, you get them blue and red glasses. They're watching it with the past team's colors. Okay, Spencer Rattler got sacked 40 times. Had to have the quickest delivery in college football this year because his line was dog meat. They ran through, I want to say, 11 different offensive line starting lineups this year. That's terrible. You had true freshmen playing. Like, they just were throwing out these guys out to the fire, and Rattler took the hit of it, yet he had his second best completion percentage in his career at 68.2%. Like, the kid has all the intangibles. Yes, he makes some stupid bonehead moves, okay? But you want to talk about that short and intermediate route in that pass game, kid's elite. You want to talk about a strong, quick release, kind of like a Will Levis, kid's got it, right? He can make throw off platform. He's mobile enough. He ain't scared in the pocket. He'll sit in the pocket and take a hit, and he knows how to move himself around in the pocket to extend plays to possibly get the ball downfield. Now, downfield, when you're going with a deep ball, he has the strength to get the ball downfield. 51-49 right now in the accuracy department, I'm going to say, when it comes to that. But Leggett did well, right? Like, Leggett had, Rattler as his quarterback all year, and everybody wants to talk about how good Leggett was, but somebody had to get the ball to him. And Spencer Rattler did that all year. And I granted, like, South Carolina sucked, but South Carolina had a top 5 strength of schedule this year, and they have another shitty schedule coming up next year. So it's like, you got to take all that into consideration. Getting sacked 39, 40 times is not fun. Knowing that you have less than 2 seconds to get the ball out of your hand you can't make 3 reads. You know what I mean? So when people say, oh, well, he was locked, that's all the time he had. And they were throwing out, Marianas had a great season, but he was a D2 convert, okay, who wasn't even the starting running back for them. DeCorian Joyner was. That didn't work. Week 4, they decided to change their offensive scheme, put this guy out there, and it propelled them to whatever 6 wins that they got, 5 wins that they got. But the discount Spencer Rattler, putting him in Mobile, putting him on a stage, but a lot of these quarterbacks don't take snaps on the center. Spencer Rattler can take snaps on the center. I love Bo Nix, but Bo Nix, most of his snaps are in the shotgun, right? Like, Spencer Rattler is a prototypical style quarterback. The build isn't as prototypical, but the style of quarterback that he plays, and the fact that he can sit on the center and just throw the ball, fire it away, go through progressions when time is available for him, man, I'm buying in. I'll buy in. He's not going to go round 1. He has the round 1 talent, but if he goes round 3 with a chance to play, I'll take that. Give me that all day long.
Yeah, with Spencer Rattler, he's had a long, storied, documented career, and I've been a Spencer Rattler guy since his high school days, and his makeup, his moxie is very similar to a Baker Mayfield. So when this past season at South Carolina, at one point, it was probably before the Georgia game, he was completing 76% of his passes, and people are saying it's all dump off, it's all this. He literally like you said, he had less than 2 seconds to throw before defenders are coming at him left and right. So he didn't have the opportunity to read progressions and go to a second and third read. And I want people to remember this. In that Georgia game, Juice Wells came back. Xavier Leggett was back. Spencer Rattler has top 2 weapons. What did they do on the opening drive? They marched down with Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler was throwing dimes to Xavier Leggett. And what happens? Juice Wells gets the touchdown. They're up 7-0. Juice Wells gets hurt. The Georgia defense shades their coverage to XL. XL still made plays, but guess what? The offensive line broke down, and Spencer Rattler had no time. Spencer Rattler, yes, there is a lot of fatigue with that name, and I do understand that. But this is a guy that has the moxie of a Brett Favre, Baker Mayfield. He has belief in himself. There was a time at Oklahoma where he lost that belief. When he transferred to South Carolina, I think what he did is he proved a lot of people wrong, because I think a lot of people thought he was this prima donna, this guy that has a really bad attitude, but he went to South Carolina, changed the culture, came back for his final year because he wanted to improve the team there. The team was absolute garbage, but he went back for his final year. Now, he won't be a day one pick,
No.
likely won't be a day two pick. If he's a day three guy, he has a chance to make the practice squad, eventually earn his reps, and could possibly fill in as a backup. We've seen Brock Purdy be the last pick in the NFL, and we had MVP chance about him. He is doing wonders at the next level. All Spencer Rattler needs is the right opportunity. I'm not saying this will happen, but Tua hasn't looked great. If the Dolphins move on from Tua, and the Dolphins get Spencer Rattler in the 5th, 6th round, who knows? All he needs is that chance. So I do like that option about the buy now for Spencer Rattler, and it's not going to cost you anything. You could literally trade him for literally nothing. You could probably trade him for some expiring asset. You could probably trade him for Joe Flacco. Like there's literally no cost for Spencer Rattler. So take that flyer. Who knows what will happen?
Yeah.
Now, Nino, who are some of your running backs that you're buying from this class? And if you have any this past rookie class, who are you buying?
So in this class coming up, maybe people don't know about him, but he was a top 10 running back all year, right? He flirted with top 5. He actually, I think he would led the nation in running 2 weeks in a row, total yards. And that's Kamani Vidal out of Troy. I wrote in the notes, and I want to explain it. I wrote Tajay Spears type rise in stock. And I'm not just basing it on Mobile, his style of play, okay? Like, Mobile is going to put eyes on him that he didn't have, okay? You're going to have all these NFL guys looking at him and be like, okay, you're looking at a guy that just is never out of it. Like, never out of it. Yak monster. He catches the ball. 4,000 yards in 4 years? Like, almost 800 carries. Durable. Really never got injured, right? And he had almost 100 receptions for 700 yards. You're talking about a legitimate dual threat running back. A 3-down back does not have to come off the field. You plug him in. He stays there as long as you need him to, unless he needs oxygen or needs to get off. And nobody's really talking about this kid because nobody knows what Troy is. Nobody even cares what Troy is, right? 5'9", 217. Yeah, he's a little bit under that 6 foot, but he a bowling ball. You're talking about a guy who had, I want to say it was close to like 50. No, it was high. It was 80% yak. He had 80% yards after contact of his total yards this year. I think he had 1,000 yards of yak out of the 1,500 that he had. That's just crazy. And then you can catch the ball coming out of the backfield, and you can block. He wasn't a liability when it came to pass block. Give me all the Kamani Vidal shares early and often.
And for those of you who haven't watched Troy play, Troy's a team that runs the ball and they want to focus on defense. So everyone that plays Troy, they know that Kamani Vidal is going to get 20, 25, 30 carries, and they still couldn't stop him. He was an absolute monster. So I do like that buy. My buy for the running back class is going to be Jalen Wright for Tennessee. He is my sleeper for the running back class. He is a guy that has a complete profile. This past season, he was really good in that receiving game, and I really rounded him out. He is a track guy. He has that breakaway speed. He's got the threat to go the distance every time he touches the ball. He's been clocked in practice at 23 miles an hour. This is a guy who every time he touches the ball, he is electric. He has really good lateral agility. He's also going to the Senior Bowl, so I'm excited to see what he does as well. Now, Nino, what receivers are you buying for this rookie class?
I'm buying a gentleman out of LSU, but his name is not Malik Nabers. His name is Brian Thomas Jr. And I'm going to tell you how much of him I'm buying and how much I'm in on him, that I got him as wide receiver 3.
Okay.
He's my wide receiver 3 right behind his teammate Malik Nabers. I think if it was Romeo Odunze or Brian Thomas Jr., give me Brian Thomas Jr. all day and twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday. Because they're gonna say, well, Dunze had touchdowns. Well, Brian Thomas had 17. Okay, Brian Thomas is also 6'4", 215 pounds. Like, you're looking at a guy that is over 60% contested catches, right? Physical force, actually has a really decent route tree for a big receiver, right? You're not jamming this guy at the line. Good luck. You're going to jam him, you're going to miss. And next thing you know, he's got 2 steps on you and you're not catching him. He doesn't have any problem going across the middle, working it. He's a legitimate red zone target. Like, this kid was a back-to-back 1,000-point scorer in high school basketball, and it's very apparent on the screen. For all those people that want to talk Keon Coleman's basketball ability and how good he is with all this athleticism, go watch some Brian Thomas, because you're going to be blown away well more than you are from Keon Coleman. Brian Thomas Jr., once they stop measuring him, once these casual people stop watching him, he is going to climb. And my having him at wide receiver 3 is not going to be that much of a hot take.
I do like that Brian Thomas call, and he is a better athlete than, you know, I don't know why Keon Coleman gets a lot of love. Keon Coleman, like, people want to comp him to George Pickens, but he's not the athlete that George Pickens is. Keon Coleman is one of those, 2004 kind of NFL receivers that's, 6'4",
Yep.
210, who can't separate, who just, throw a jump ball. That's not how the NFL is played today. So I really do like that Brian Thomas call. Now, do you have anyone else out in the receiving class that you're going to buy?
I do, and he's going to be my 2024 Tank Dell.
Okay.
And that is going to be Jacob Cowling out of Arizona. The only thing different is the ADOT, if you think about it. Like, Tank Dell's ADOT, I believe, was probably around 12, and Cowling is at like 6. Okay, but which means all it means is that Cowling does more of his work before the ball. He does it on his own, right? But Tank did that on his own as well, and he was a special teams threat. But it's the size is a mirror. Like, the weight is a mirror. Like, one was 170, one was 162 or something like that, right? Can play outside, can play inside. For small guys, physical, not afraid to take a hit, not afraid to run into you and extend the play. Playmakers, open field monsters, can make you miss on a tuna can, which is absolutely insane. Twitched up. I mean, you could even say he's kind of like, if Tank Dell and Zay Flowers had a baby, you got Jacob Cowling. Okay, so give me all of that, because I have a funny feeling he's going to be plug and play week 1. Whatever team he goes on, he is going to make that wide receiver 1 that much better.
I do like that call. People have been talking him up lately, and the advanced metrics do really look good on him. And a lot of people really do think he is that Tank Dell mold. And you could possibly get him cheaper than you could Tank Dell. I mean, last year Tank Dell, once he got drafted, there was no way you were getting him in the 3rd round of your rookie drafts. He got skyrocketed up. So now, if you're in a C2C league and you're trying to buy him, you can buy him now for cheap. You can probably buy him for, maybe if you go to a C2C sub draft, you could probably get him for a supplemental, probably 6th round or later. It's not going to cost you that much. And then you have him now before the draft. And then once the draft hits, if he's a 2nd, 3rd, 4th round pick, you've already profited right there. So I do like that call. I have 2 tight ends for this class that I want to consider. Now, for tight ends, we always say, the past, I'll probably say every year for the past 4 years, we always say at the beginning of the season, tight ends don't look that bad this year. And at the end of the year, it's tight ends were horrible. Now, this past season, we got some rookies that came up and they balled out. And we're saying now at the end of the year, tight ends not looking bad. And I got 2 names that I want people to know and that they should be buying now. The first one is Jaheim Bell for Florida State. He was with South Carolina. At both programs, he was used all over the place. He was used out wide in the backfield. They did reverses. They did short area screens. They used him as an athlete. He is a guy that you just get the ball in his hands and he's going to make plays. And the other guy that I like is Ben Sanat for Kansas State. He is really, really good. A really good athlete. He also blocks really well. So he is not a team destination dependent. If he needs to block, he will block. And these 2 guys, I don't think they'll go earlier than a 3rd round, but these guys are going to bring you value. So in your rookie drafts, I would say look for these guys at the end of round 2 into early round 3 in your rookie drafts. And in C2Cs, you should definitely pick him up. What are your thoughts about those 2, Nino?
I love Sanat. I think he is a dark horse. His game, physical guy, right? Can stay in line, can go out there and catch passes, right? Like I think that Bell is just a Swiss Army knife. I love Bell at South Carolina. His last year at South Carolina, I don't understand why they were using him as like a running back, and they kind of did that a little bit to start off the season at Florida State. But when it came down the stretch and they needed games, Bell's out there catching passes, and he can do it anyway in the slot, out wide. You can put him in screens and stuff. So I love both of those guys. I didn't have him on the dock, but I got a dark horse.
Okay.
Out of Colorado State. And Darwin Holker. I mean, anybody that's 6'5", 240, right, that's got hands, I'm about it. I mean, this kid seems like he got a little Michael Mayer in him without the, like, flashy catches, right? Like, kind of like a discounted Trey McBride, come from the same school. I know it's a lazy man comp, but it's just you see a little bit of it, right? He can play in line. He's an unbelievable blocker. He's got that Kelsey-esque move where you can kind of eat the block and it just slides out, right? Like Kelsey's not the best blocker, but he knows how to fake it. Holker can't block, but he also knows how to just kind of slide off, just stall the guy enough, get out there in the flat, give my quarterback an option. I think once testing comes out, you could see a guy like kind of take a little bit of a rise, kind of like Tucker Croft did last year.
Yeah, and then with Holker, everyone watched the Colorado game, and
Right.
everyone remembers that amazing catch that he did where he pretty much got the ball, it almost touched the ground. He went down, grabbed it, and then he went on with it. So everyone remembers that. So he is another one that we are going to be looking out for this tight end class. Now, Nino, for these Devy buys, who are you buying at the quarterback position?
At the quarterback position, you got a guy, both of your guys I'm in on. So I'm not even going to talk about. I'll talk about after you talk about. I'm on people biased, little hometown guy. I'm going to talk about Thomas Castellanos out of BC. He led the nation quarterback rush shots, 1,000-yard rusher, right? And everybody would say, yeah, he's a quarterback. And I'm the big guy that pounds the table. If you're a quarterback, your arm has to be priority number one. But they didn't really change the scheme. He wasn't supposed to be QB1 for the Eagles, right? It was supposed to, why am I drawing Emmett Morehead was supposed to be QB1. That brought him down to the ACC conference, start the season. And then, 16 plays into game one, they yanked him, and Castellanos had the job and ran with it. But you're talking about a guy who can make Madden-esque plays on the field in real life. You're talking about a guy, they just put pieces around, right? They went out and got the gentleman from Texas Tech, Bradley as a wide receiver, absolute dog. They went out and got a flyer and Vanderbilt McGowan, Jaden McGowan, who's an absolute stud. They got a freshman coming who got some work down the stretch, and Jaden Skeet. And Lewis Bond became the dude for them this year in the wide receiver. I say they didn't scheme up. For the first 7 weeks of the year, with trying to figure out Thomas Castellanos, they were running routes, wheel routes, and sending receivers 30, 40 yards downfield. The quarterback couldn't make that throw. When they started winning games, right outside after that Florida State game, they started winning. They got on a run. They won 5 in a row. Okay, we're gonna play action. We're gonna get Castellanos on the run. If he's got to run, that's what his bread and butter is right now. Until he figures out, we'll let him go. But he's Madden-esque. He can make you miss no matter what. You think you got him 10 yards back, and then he turns it into a 20-yard play. But what else that does? There ain't many DBs in this game that can cover a wide receiver on the field for 6 to 7 seconds. Okay, now you got a chance with competent wide receivers that can get open and know, okay, play's ending. Let me go make a play. I think Castellanos has a chance to be a huge, huge college football fantasy asset this year.
Yeah, he is a very fun player. And I remember watching when he took over because I have a lot of shares of Joseph Griffin Jr. for Boston College.
Yes.
So I would watch him play. I'm like, who is this guy at quarterback? He's electric out there. It's like, why have I never heard of him? And then, Thomas Castellanos, he is a fun player. And he'll have a full off season and a full spring camp to, improve that passing game, get better as a passer. and it'll be his second year as a starter. So I do think that the ceiling is very high on him, and I do think he can improve that passing game, and that wide receiver group has been upgraded. So I am really excited to see what Boston College does. Now I have two quarterbacks. The first one I want to mention is Garrett Nussmeier for LSU. Now anyone that knows me knows that he's been my QB1 for the 2025 class since August. I've been on record, multiple podcasts. I've written about him, and I've also talked about him on multiple shows. He is a guy that I am buying. I don't think people realize how good of a situation he has. LSU essentially paid him NIL money to sit on the bench. He could have gone anywhere and been a starter, but the LSU boosters, they wanted him there because they knew what they had. Yes, they had Jaden Daniels there, but they were looking for Garrett Nussmeier. All spring and all fall camp last year, while Jaden Daniels was the starter, people were talking about Garrett Nussmeier and how his arm is great. Throws a great deep ball, real accurate. He layers his throws. He makes all the throws you want in an NFL quarterback. People are sleeping on him. You should buy him now because this time next year, he will be a quarterback one for the 2025 class. The next quarterback I want to talk about, and then I'll get you with your feedback on both of these guys, is Malachi Nelson. Now, he is a former five-star quarterback for USC. He entered the portal late, and so he wasn't going to be able to go to a top Power 4 school. He ends up going to Boise State, and right away, right there, once he goes to Boise State, you can get a discount on him. If you're in a Devy league, his Devy value is pretty much zero, so you can buy him for pennies on the dollar. In a C2C, he does have some CFF potential there, so it may cost a little bit more, but nowhere near when you were buying him last year. He is someone that I think absolutely balls out at Boise State. I believe Boise State will make the top 12 and into the playoffs. And then once he shines in the playoffs, he'll then transfer up to a Power 4 and he'll restore that stock that you once thought of him, but you're going to get him for pennies on the dollars. What are your thoughts, Nino?
Nelson, through the roof. I spoke to you before about Prince Strachan, whose brother played for the Colts, Michael Strachan. I love it. As soon as Nelson signed, I'm like, yes, give me all my Prince Strachan shares. I want them all because you're right. That was the play. I'm gonna go. I can't play at USC, right? They don't trust. Once Mims had that game and they brought in the other gentleman, they were like, yeah. He's like, all right, like I'm not gonna play. I want to play, and this is where I can start and put my talents out front for everybody. And when they made that coaching change mid-season, that interim coach took that team by the horns and they started putting points on the board. Don't forget about the guy in the backfield. Ashton Genty is a top 5 running back coming into this year. Maybe top 10. It all depends on where you are. There's awesome guys, but he's one of them elite running backs coming into this season. There are so many pieces in play for Nelson. His game, he's got a strong arm, right? You forget because you haven't heard anything about him. But coming into when he got committed to USC, he was a top dude. Like everybody wanted him, and nobody could get him. He knew where he was going. So this is a huge get for Boise. And like you said, you can get him dirt right now. People say Boise State, they're like, I don't want nothing to do with him. Had Jaden Daniels not took that turn week 1, you might have got a little bit of Newsmeyer. Like if he didn't, he's making that. He progressed this offseason. Daniels progressed. You saw a little bit in the spring, but he made that move. And now he's the leader of our team. There was a chance. I said that there was a chance that Newsmeyer could have pushed him because you saw him in the previous bowl game. I'm like, all right, why didn't we see this more the previous year when Daniels wasn't elite, right? And Newsmeyer came in, was firing that thing all around. Neighbors loved him. Neighbors had instant chemistry with him in the bowl game. So I love both of those plays. I think they're absolute home runs.
Yeah. Now, who are some of your running backs that you're going to buy for this Devy landscape?
So Mario Anderson, right? Like I mentioned him earlier, D2 guy, went to South Carolina, right? Close to 900 yards, wasn't the starter. I think he played himself a little bit, thinking that he was going to go to a big school. Everybody's going to want him. But he's one of them guys that, falls in poo and comes out smelling like roses because you landed in Memphis. Memphis has been turning out running backs for about 6 years. You mentioned Antonio Gibson, right? They just been turning them out. Blake Watson had it the last 2-3 years has been stellar. People don't know about him. There's another guy you got to go watch. Go watch him film. If he's going to be a guy next year in the NFL, you're going to be like, whoa, where was this guy? How come I didn't know about him? But you can literally plug Mario Anderson into that Blake Watson role and walk away. There's a very good possibility that you're looking at a 1,100-yard run back in Mario Anderson next year in that scheme, and possibly a 25 reception for 260 yards, a couple touchdowns in the receiving game. Give me the Mario Anderson. I get them cheap. People don't. South Carolina got Rocket Raheem. Nobody worried about Mario Anderson, D2 guy that went 1 year in the SEC. I'll take him. He's going to dominate the CUSA. That's for sure. Dominate.
And yeah, I do think with Memphis, that is a great situation for him. They've turned out running backs left and right to the NFL, so he does have a pretty good pathway. Do you have one more guy that you're going to be buying at the running back position?
I do. I watched him up here with old Big East guy that doesn't exist anymore, right? But UConn running back a couple years ago, now he's at Michigan State. Nathan Carter. And I said this on, I believe Volume Pigs had put out a piece. Shout out Volume Pigs, great dude. Always put out good stuff. He had mentioned Nathan Carter, and I'm like, yo, he ate at Michigan State with Mel Tucker, and he was terrible. Like that whole offense was just gross, and he still almost got 800 yards. But out of those 800 yards, half of it was yards after contact. This is a dude that just head down, bowling ball, like bing, 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 bounce around, get it done. And he had 30 targets in the past game. Like, nobody hears about it. Last year, when you talking UConn, yes, this guy went to Michigan State, but they were like, oh, Victor Rosa. Give me all Victor Rosa. Who cares about, Nathan Carter going to Michigan State? Doesn't matter, because there was supposed to be a guy that I can't think of his name right now, but there was a gentleman that was in that running back room, was supposed to be a dude for like the last 2-3 years, and just never took over the room, never was the guy. Nathan Carter comes in 1 year, and he took over the room. And a team that was anemic. Everything over there was so bad. Keon Coleman left as soon as he could. Went to a team that was much better, and you got to see his talents. Now they're bringing in everything from Oregon State that was elite in that run game. Jonathan Smith is the head coach. I think they already got 2 of the Oregon State offensive linemen have transferred in. You're bringing in the QB and Aiden Childs, so I think it's a huge get over there. He's a mobile guy, which means what? Either a safety or a linebacker is going to have to stay home and stay true, which means Nathan Carter is going to have more time to get out to the edge. Yes, he's an in-between tackle, probably more, that's his bread and butter, but he can get outside the tackle. And I think with this scheme and what's coming up and those big boys up front, you're about to hear a lot of Nathan Carter next year.
Yeah, with a young quarterback in Aiden Childs, his best friend is always a good running game. So I do like that call. Michigan State will be trying to probably slow down the game because they are in that rebuild process. So it would be wise for them to run Nathan Carter, and it will allow Aiden Childs to settle down and not have so much on his plate. So I do like that call. I do have some running backs to buy. The first one is Caleb Jackson for LSU. Logan Diggs saw the writing on the wall. He wasn't going to be the starter. He transfers out. This is Caleb Jackson's back room. We saw what he did as a true freshman. We saw that one play where he did, I think it was against South Carolina, I want to say, but he just trucked a linebacker and just went on with it. This is a guy that has a really good size and speed combination. He was someone that played behind Logan Diggs last year, so I think you can really buy low on him. I don't think people are that aware of him, so I think you get him for cheap. The next guy I want to buy is Cameron Seldon for Tennessee. This is a guy who is an absolute freak. His athletic comparison has Bo Jackson in it, and it has some other elite profile guys. This is a guy who was a wide receiver. He converted to running back. He played behind those really good Tennessee running backs, Small and Wright this year. It should be his turn next year to get at least a good opportunity in that backfield, if not being the 1A, the 1B. He is a guy that is a very electric runner. He needed that year to grow and learn the position. He's trying to learn it on the job. So I think he is someone that you should buy low as well. The next one is Kedrick Riscano for Ole Miss. Now, while he won't get the lion's share of the backfield work this year because Logan Diggs comes in there, I think Kedrick Riscano will win that third down role. He'll work his way in as a third down back and can garner some running shares in that backfield. After that, it'll be his running back room next year as a redshirt sophomore. So then you have essentially 2 more years with them, and he should be all systems go. His last year in high school, he had, I believe, 42 receptions. So he is a threat on third downs for Ole Miss. And the last guy I'm buying is Jadon Blue. We saw what he did towards the end of the season once Jonathan Brooks got hurt. Jadon Blue is a guy, every time he touches the ball, he is electric. He is someone that people are sleeping on. Texas brought in a couple more recruits for the running back room, so it is a pretty deep room, but Jadon Blue has a seniority there. I do think he will be the 1B next year and get a good portion of the run game. What are your thoughts about those running backs, Nino?
Listen, I've been a Kedrick. I say Riscano. I don't know what his last name, how it's pronounced. You probably said it right. I've probably been saying it wrong the longest time. I've talked to him through Twitter multiple times. I'm trying to lock him in for an interview. I love everything about his game. This is a kid that every year since his sophomore year has increased by 350 yards, okay? This is a kid, his senior year had 33 rushing touchdowns. I want to say something like he has like close to 67 total touchdowns rushing the ball in 4 years of a freshman on varsity. Played only a couple of games. Then he went from 2 games to 9 games his next year. Every season, he's just gotten better. But averaging over 7 yards per carry for 3 straight seasons. And like you said, his 40 total receptions as a receiver, close to 600-something yards. This kid's just got a nose for the end zone. And I love everything about his game. I knew with Judkins there and Ulysses there, like I knew he wasn't going to get time. You know what I'm saying? This is his time. Week 5. Logan Diggs is nothing special. Okay? Logan Diggs barely beat out John Emery Jr. If John Emery Jr. couldn't stop getting in trouble at school, right, then Logan Diggs would be RB2 at LSU. So, yeah, he might have a couple weeks where he's a starter to start the season, might have a good camp. Kedrick is going to be the guy for them, and that's a fact. And Jackson Dart is going to love every piece of it because he can block, he can catch the ball, he can run on outside, inside, he can run all over the field. My question to you is, I love Selden's game. Does he have enough to pass Sampson? Because I think Dylan Sampson is electric.
I know you love Sampson. So I think to start, I think Sampson will get the 1A. So I think he'll be the leader, and they'll bring Selden along as the 1B. I think Selden, with his wide receiving background, I think he'll be used more for a third down role, get him in space, get him to create. And then because he's still learning that position, the one thing that I loved about it is last year in the spring game, Josh Heupel was just talking him up. He's like, this guy may not know what he's doing back there, but he's doing everything on instincts, and his instincts are right. And so Heupel was saying all he needs to do is just learn the position because those instincts are there. So I think he'll be the 1B. He'll probably play a third down back. And then in those blowouts that they have early on in the season, I think he'll get a good lion's share of that and be able to learn with live reps.
Yeah, I'm with it. Like they had success for the last 2-3 years with dual running back. Even this year was right and small. So like, yeah, I'm down. I don't know because it was just one game, but the game against Iowa, they seemed to, and I know it was Nico's first game, right? So they're not going to put everything on the kid. But once Nico started balling, Sampson was just still eating. Like they were getting him in the pass game. And he was running through the trenches, outside the trenches. It didn't matter. So I think they're in good shape. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think they're going to do wonders next year. Now, for the wide receivers, who are you buying?
All right. So I got one name people probably know, and I got a name probably you might know, but the casuals have no idea who I'm talking about. And it's just it's going to be more of the size and the opportunity. Okay, Chris Mitchell is a kid that I'm all about. You're talking about a 1,000-yard receiver, FIU, right? Not a big program, continues to get better, right? Lanky kid, he's fast. Can play on the outside, can play on the inside. That depends on how you want to play him. Now he goes to Notre Dame. Notre Dame just got a mobile dual threat QB in Riley Leonard. Again, another version where you have to lose a defender to defend Riley Leonard. You cannot afford to take a safety over the top away from Chris Mitchell. And if they're going to play that way, Chris Mitchell is going to have a very, very productive season. I think Chris Mitchell hit a home run going to Notre Dame. Yes, they lost Tobias Merriweather. I'm a Merriweather fan, but I think Mitchell will make them forget about Tobias Merriweather very fast.
I do think Chris Mitchell is going to be the better option over Bo Collins. I think Chris Mitchell is a guy that he has shown his worth, and now he's going to get the opportunity where all the lights will be on. He'll be, in Notre Dame. So, I think that's a really good opportunity for him. And the returning receivers at Notre Dame, it's nothing of note. Jaden Greathouse, not very athletic. Yeah. And then, they have Cam Williams, who's a true freshman who's going to be there. He's not going to be ready day one. So I really do think Chris Mitchell, I think he's the one to buy at Notre Dame. Who's the other guy that you're buying?
Okay, so the other guy I'm buying is a wide receiver who's 6'4", 225 pounds. And I seen him in the flesh when I watched BC play Virginia, okay? He looked like a tight end at that position. And then at closing time and halftime, right? Time was expiring. They just chucked one 40 yards down into the end zone. Everybody, this gentleman just went right up like a skyrocket above everybody, plucked it, came down for the touchdown. And I'm like, I said in pregame, I was locked in on this guy. That's Malachi Fields. Okay. As a number 2, he had 58 receptions, 811 yards, 5 touchdowns, but he averaged 14 yards per catch. Malik Washington's gone. He was the only other receiver outside of bowl season to have 100 receptions. He had 125 targets at 1,000 yards. That's all gone. Someone's got to fill that void. That's a lot of voided targets, and that's a lot of voided yards. Malachi Fields is the most experienced guy in that room. And he's already worked with both quarterbacks, whether it's Musket or it's the freshman who saw playing. Either way, whoever they decide to go with, because Musket said he was returning, give me Malachi Fields. You're coming a big body receiver. You are not jamming him at the line of scrimmage, okay? 50-50 balls, gotcha, right? Doesn't have the best route tree, but that'll come with time. If he's look at DK Metcalf. He was the lead at 3 of them. He developed 2 more when he got to the NFL, still got to the show. I'm not saying Malachi Fields is DK Metcalf. I'm just saying that you don't have to have an extensive route tree if you're good at what you can do, right? I just think that this kid, intangibles, playing at home, has only gotten better every single year he was there. The year before, he had an injury, right? Only played a couple games. He had 5 receptions for 58 yards. This year, he had 58 receptions for 800 yards. An 800% increase, right? So he's obviously doing something right. He has the physical talent, physical ability. Give me all the Malachi Fields. You want to talk about dirt cheap? You could probably get him for a penny.
I like that call. I really do. Now, I have 2 buys. I'm going to talk about my first guy, and then I'll let you talk about it because I know you love him as well. The first guy I am going to talk about is Jalen Royals. I have been pumping this guy since late September. This is a guy who went to Georgia Military Academy in Georgia for a community college. Did nothing there. I think he only had like 7 catches in his duration there. He thought about maybe his football career was over. Somehow winds up hearing about Utah State having a tryout. He goes to Logan, does a public tryout for them. These are guys that are just walk-ons, that are just trying to just impress. He is a verified 6 foot, 193 pounds, ran a 4.340. This is verified. His first year at Utah State in 2022, he didn't see the playing field.
Nope.
In 2023, he absolutely broke out. This is a guy that people are sleeping on. This is a guy who had over 70 receptions, over 1,000 yards, over 15 touchdowns. This is a guy who is just lightning fast. He wins short, intermediate, and deep routes. He does everything for them. The one thing that I love is Coach Blake Anderson loves this guy, he loves this guy. With this, the issue that he had when he first came in was his get off. His get off wasn't very good. Corners would always, stuff him down.
Jam him.
He wouldn't be able to get off, but he worked and worked and worked on that. And now that's one of his strengths. This is something that I absolutely love about a receiver. When they have a weakness and they work on it and they turn that weakness into a strength. This is a guy that is a true Devy asset that isn't being valued as one. You should trade for him now because he is going to get over 90 receptions. He's going to get over 1,300 yards, and he's going to get over 15 touchdowns next year. This is a guy you need to buy. What are your thoughts, Nino?
I can't say enough about Rose. I love everything about his game. The fact that he was literally getting jammed 90% of the time, which is what struggled him at community college, which is what struggled him to start the season. He wasn't the wide receiver one on that team by any means. I believe it was Vaughn, right? Terrell Vaughn, He had like 90 receptions, 900 yards. Yes, Royals took over down the stretch, but he developed and fixed his game. Now, I don't think I've ever seen a receiver develop twitch. He has twitch. Like, no one at the time when you see him come into college, they either have it or they don't. Right? This is something they don't have, but they're going to fine-tune their game on what they're good at, and they go, he developed twitch. Good luck trying to jam this kid at the line now. Like, and it's not just twitch from the hips. He's got head movement, right? But between the neck and the hips, you can't just, I'm just going to watch his torso. Now, it doesn't work that way. Like, you stare at him, and you think he's going that way, but the way he moves his body, and then he gets low. It's kind of like a running back as soon as he sees a little niche around you, he can get low and oh, all right, he's got in front of me. I'm going to go upfield. Nah, he cuts inside, and it's like those greyhounds at the race chasing that little rabbit. That's what you're doing with Jalen Rose. You're just chasing around, hoping that he doesn't score on you, hoping that he doesn't make you look stupid. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I think Spencer Petras might be a better QB coming into there than what they had. So let the big arm chuck the ball around. Get him to Jalen Royals even more. Now there's nobody to take the targets away from. Vaughn's gone, right? It's just Jalen Royals and whatever other guy that might fill in the role. But he's a dude. He made me go out and get a Utah State shirt. I got one in the closet. I've worn multiple shows. People are like, what's up with Utah State? I'm like, Royals, bro. Like, if you don't know, go figure it out.
I have multiple Utah State stuff too, and I'm also covering them with the league winners on. I'm going to be trying to get an interview with him later on in spring. So that is my goal. But yeah, one final thing I want to mention about Jalen Royals. People ask me, like, how do I determine what's a CFF asset and what's a Devy asset? I want someone that has something to fall back on at the next level. I want someone to be able to hang their hat on this trait that they can win at the next level. 4.3 speed is 4.3 speed. 4.3 will play in the NFL. He's really good quick get off. Those are two things that's going to get him looked at. He is someone that can play out wide and in the slot. This is why I consider him a Devy asset and not a CFF asset. 4.3 40 verified. Now, the final guy I want to talk about in the receiving game that I'm trying to buy is I've been buying for the past year and a half now. That's J. Michael Sturdivant. Now, this past season, he was my stock up guy. I thought he was going to blow up and just absolutely do well. It was the exact opposite of that. Did not do well at all. I don't know what UCLA was doing. They didn't have a really good quarterback system there. They play like 4 guys at quarterback. But in the bowl game, in the LA Bowl, we saw what I was hoping for the entire season. He caught 4 passes, 142 yards, and a touchdown. I'm still a believer. I'm still a believer, Nino.
You gotta be. I mean, like 6'3", 205, right? Like, he's got the size, he's got the hands. That program was a mess, an absolute mess. But they had a backfield, right? Carson Steele, TJ Harden. Harden comes back. Steele's going on to the NFL or trying to. They got a quarterback now. Like, do they have a quarterback now? Or here's my thing. And I've been saying this for a very long time. Is Chip Kelly good at like making the QB decision? Because we're going back to like the NFL and he's messed it up there. And the year before he went to the NFL, he messed it up there. Like, he's just Dante Moore. You messed that one up. Like, it seems like Ethan Gabbers, cool, right? He's got the most experience in the Pac-12. Who gives a shit? You know, you stick with the guy with the most talent, the guy that gives you the chance to win. Sturban is a stud, okay? I love his game. I love everything he brings to the table. Close to 17 yards per catch. All about it, right? A. over 11. Like, he's a downfield threat. Figure out the QB and let this kid's stock rise. Because if you give him a solid QB that went out flipping a coin on who was going to be from week to week, you're looking at an 80 reception, 70 to 80 reception kid, 1,000-yard receiver, probably get you double-digit touchdowns.
Yeah, Chip Kelly is still living off of his Oregon days. That's the only thing I can think of why he still has a job.
I have not figured it out, my friend. I've been trying to figure it out for years. People just living in the past.
Now, the final Devy buy I have is a tight end. And this isn't a homer call, but it's going to be Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland is my tight end one for the Devy rankings for next year. And I think he is someone that you should absolutely buy. Now, his quarterback likely is going to be Alex Orji, and the receiving core at Michigan coming back next year is not very good. They don't have a lot of returning production. So I do think Michigan will be running the ball a lot, probably 30 to 40 times like usual. But I think Colston Loveland will be the number one target there. He's going to earn the targets. He's always been a really good player. He's a converted wide receiver, has really good hands, really explosive. He uses his feet to beat the linebackers, and he's going to get wide open. Alex Orji just needs to be a little bit more accurate than what we've seen from him in the past. You got any thoughts on this Michigan player?
So I love his build up, big tight end, can block, can play in line, can catch the ball. Who's the quarterback? Like, is it Orji? Is it Davis? Is it the other? Who's the other gentleman that's a sophomore that they love? They wanted to get on the field so much they couldn't get him on the field. Like, is it going to be one of them? I know you know more than I do because it's your team, but it's just like I thought that he would have had a bigger year this year with all the hype around JJ McCarthy. Yes, granted, Colton had huge games for them when they needed him to. I felt like JJ kind of held him back a little bit. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of times JJ will hold on to the ball, trying to make the bigger play, and he'll overlook the simple plays where Colston Loveland's right there in the flat. Just get the ball out there. Yeah, 5-6 yards, get ahead of the chain. But instead, he was looking to extend the play, move out of the pocket, look for Roman Wilson, and try to make something out of nothing. So I do think that as far as the quarterback position goes, I know. I know we do a show with the CFB Nation, Welcome to the Big House, where you produce it for me, and I have thoughts about this quarterback position that we'll save for that episode.
All right, all right.
We'll just save it for that one.
Yeah, now, I got questions for you for sure.
Now let's go to some CFF buys. Who are you buying at the quarterback position?
He returned. Okay. He hit the portal, but then he came back. And I noticed in this same segment, you got a guy from the same team. I think they're going to go hand in hand this year. Brandon Strager. Okay. Listen, Timmy Chang's been trying to get this right for a few years now. Okay. And it seemed like around like week 6, all right off the rip, they were throwing the ball. But after those first 2 weeks where Ashlock and Schrader were like the talk of the town, they kind of hit a lull, right? There was like a couple of weeks there, they were kind of like just mediocre. Then that offense took us. It seemed like Chang figured it out, right? Figured out what he had in Ashlock, figured out what he had in Strager. And Strager's just got a howitzer, man. He can throw the ball around. He's hard-nosed. He'll sit in the pocket and take shots. He don't care. Like, now you get the kid back. They have a chemistry. I don't know. You put him about a kid that just loves to chuck the ball around, can throw it off platform, isn't the most mobile dude, but can extend plays with his legs enough to, to throw it, or if it's just to get positive yards, he can do that. In a conference where it's just put up points, who puts up the most points pretty much, give me Brent Strager, man. I'm all about it. He's a dude in fantasy. He just puts the points up. Nobody really knows about Hawaii guys either. They play an awkward schedule, late games and stuff like that, but he got juice. He got some moxie to him.
Yeah, I like that. And for people that don't know, 2 years ago, Timmy Chang was hired by Hawaii. Their previous staff did a lot of mistreatment to their players, and Hawaii literally lost essentially almost their entire football team. So the AD went and they wanted to get someone to restore that program, and they got Timmy Chang. Timmy Chang, he is an absolute beast. When he was a quarterback and June Jones was their head coach, he is trying to implement the modern day run and shoot. The first year he didn't have the players. This past year, he started to have some players, but they just need to gel and to mesh. And I really do think the third year, this coming season, is really going to be their year. I've mentioned this on, I think it was last episode when I had SC on. I said Hawaii is going to be a bowl contending team. I really do think they can get 6 wins with their quarterback coming back. You talked about him. He is someone that is really good. We know Hawaii gets the volume, so we do like that for fantasy.
Right.
And he is someone because he came back, Pofele and Stephen McBride, they come back. That trio is back. They started to find a run game towards the end of the season. That's something that we still have to look for to see if they can combine the run in the run and shoot, because beforehand to start the season, they were using, I think it was Hines or someone.
Yeah,
but
it was Hines and Sims.
Yeah, Hines was not doing it. He was getting like 10 carries for like 9 yards. He was not doing it. So towards the end of the season, they kind of found their groove. I want to see what happens there with Hawaii and their quarterback. I have 2 quarterbacks that I am trying to buy. The first one is Avery Johnson for Kansas State. He is someone that had 5 rushing touchdowns in a game this year. He didn't even play the whole game. He was platooning with Will Howard. He got 5 rushing touchdowns. Will Howard was sent off because Kansas State wants Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson is the highest recruit in the past 15 years ever. Yeah, because I went back to Rivals. I think the furthest you can go back is 15 years, and he was the highest one. So I didn't know if it was ever, or I just want to be safe and say 15 years.
Yeah, and I'll go out there ever. It's dude. This kid's got it. For sure. I'm a big fan. When I saw it on the doc, I'm like, oh man, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I really do like him. And the other one is going to be KJ Jefferson. I think people thought that he was going to be a Devy asset last year. He struggled at Arkansas. He now transfers to UCF. I think this is a time to buy him because as a CFF asset, UCF returns a plethora of players. Their wide receiver, running back room, they are loaded. They have a chance to compete for the Big 12 title next year. And KJ Jefferson now goes to a place where he has weapons. He had nothing at Arkansas. Raheem Sanders was pretty much out for the majority of the season. This is a guy who's a super senior. UCF just needed a quarterback to lead them. He's going to be the guy. He's a buy for me.
Oh, absolutely. But when you're going into a year that you're supposed to be going into the NFL and your best wide receiver is a freshman, Isaiah Santiago, like you're set up to fail, and your running back's 245, right? Like you were set up to fail with no weapons. Sam, I said Pittman was possibly on the hot seat to get fired. I like everything went wrong for them. So yeah, KJ Jefferson looked terrible. But you're putting a big-bodied quarterback in a backfield with RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey probably weighs just as much as KJ Jefferson. Like, good luck. Which I feel like it's a redundancy thing in this episode, but it's like these guys are going to demand a defender. Bring that safety down. That middle linebacker has no choice but to keep his eyes in the backfield. KJ Jefferson can throw that ball around the field anywhere he wants to, however he wants to. If they can get that play action game running, Ooh, KJ Jefferson could get his stock right back to where it was before this season started. I absolutely love the KJ Jefferson buy. But I'm I'm going all in on Avery Johnson. Dude, his game is absolutely ridiculous. Right? Like the legs can beat you, the arm can beat you. It's like a Josh Allen arm. Like he makes weird throws and stuff. Like, but it's in the intangibles that he's got there, right? And the fact that they had a quote unquote dude, and they just said go. Like same thing that they did in Mississippi State. Will Rogers, go, bro. I got a next guy. You can go, and we got the next guy. He's got DJ Giddens in the backfield, and this kid is a legitimate running threat. So now you have two running threats in the backfield. How do you scheme that? It's not like he can't throw the ball. He can throw the ball over the field, and we've seen that. And they have my guy, one of the guys that I'm huge on, in Brown, as a wide receiver, who was a freshman and dominated. But you're getting a youthful team that is already gelling, and a kid that can pretty much do anything and has whatever you want to call it, swag, moxie, confidence as a freshman. Take my money. Take my money.
Now, who are you buying at the running back position?
We're sickos, okay? Me and you are sick people when it comes to player profiles and just diving into it. So I had to I had to dive deep like you. I wanted to make sure I wasn't just, coming up with chalk here. I think I did a pretty good job. But I'm going to go with a guy that most people have no idea who he is or where he plays. But in a small sample size, on a team that's got a very, very good coaching staff, that OC is an absolute stud. I thought he was going to get a head coaching job this year. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but Brennan, what's his last name? I can't think. Brennan is his first name. And then you get Barry Odom as the head coach. Like, they set up my guy, Jaden Thomas, to have an excellent career at UNLV. Now, he wasn't the main guy, and he was a freshman who got 108 carries, 500 yards, right? Close to 5 yards per carry. Talk about a freshman with 12 touchdowns, which means they trusted my man in the red zone, right? Because it wasn't like he was ripping off 40-yard runs for scores. Only had 500 yards, so he is a red zone threat. Like, in a small sample size of games, he played Boise State, San Jose State, pretty good defense. Air Force, pretty good defense, right? Wyoming, pretty good defense. Like, scored against Wyoming. Put up 40, 50 yards against Air Force and Wyoming and New Mexico. Like, those are solid rush defenses. And this kid, as a freshman, performed. He can play in the hash, right? He can run in the gap. He can run in the zone. He just didn't get enough shares. Well, guess what? Now he's going to get the shares. He doesn't have to split it no more. It's going to be his backfield. He earned that, right? Vincent Davis, you are a thing of the past. Jaden Thomas, you are the thing of the future. Like I said, most people do not know what he brings to the table. He had 7 receptions as well, so he could be a threat in the receiving game, but he didn't have enough options. Now he's going to get those options. Give me the Jaden Thomas, all the shares.
I absolutely love that call, and he's probably free in your C2C league, so you can probably get him probably in the later rounds for absolutely dirt cheap. So I do love that call. Now, I have one CFF running back asset that I'm trying to buy, and that's Parker Jenkins. Now, Parker Jenkins last year, in a more passing-friendly type scheme, he ran for 464 yards, had 3 touchdowns, 15 receptions. So he has that receiving profile. Now, Houston goes out and they hire Willie Fritz. Now, Willie Fritz at Tulane, he was a very good coach. He does love to run the ball. Mekhi Hughes, as a freshman there, went out and absolutely balled out. Parker Jenkins is going to be in the same kind of a mold. They're going to use him in the run game. They're going to take pressure off whoever they decide going to be their quarterback. Parker Jenkins is a buy.
100% a buy. You're going to tell me about a guy who had 120 snaps, 98 attempts, but had 20 runs of 10-plus yards? You're talking about a guy out of the 463 yards he had, 140-plus for breakaway yards? I'm talking about a guy that gets the ball and can make a house call at any time the ball touches his hands. Like, ran zone, like, as a young kid, you're not just delegating this kid to one thing. You're not just making him a one-trick pony. Like you mentioned, he can catch the ball. Didn't have a lot, but he did have some, right? On a team that lost a lot. Like, they were known as aired out, fired away, right? You had Toon, you had Dell, and then you had Golden, had a little bit of injuries, took a little bit of a hit this year. They had another gentleman, Brown, stepped it up for them on the outside, but they were really kind of passing the ball around. They were trying to find an identity this year because most of their identity had left and gone in the NFL. This kid has it. Like, all right, 21 targets, 15 receptions. I'll take that. Yeah, that's a good ratio. You can get upfield very quickly. You're not twitched up, right? But you have enough twitch to get loose, and he has some bend to him. Like, in a pile, he can kind of get small, package up, and get out of and get extra yards. I'm with it. I think we've seen Tajay Spears, right? You've seen Hughes this year dominate. Willie Fritz knows the way to get his running backs, aka his playmakers, the ball in space, whatever it may be. And Donovan Smith is a dude. And that's the quarterback. And he's mobile. And he can fire the ball around. That's an unbelievable combination. I'm with it. Give me the Pocket Jenkins shares all day.
Sounds good. Now, who are you buying at the wide receiver position?
I mentioned him, Jace Brown, right? Kansas State. The kid just finds a way, right? You seen him, he scored. I think he scored in the bowl game early. That was like the passing touchdown that Avery had.
Yeah.
He had like 600 yards. Wasn't the main guy this year, right? As a freshman, kind of just earned his roles, kept grinding every week, every practice, got more and more reps, more and more targets. I think by the end of the season, and it was apparent that he kind of took over that room. Like, he's the guy. He reminds me a little bit of Josh Downs, right? You can eat in the middle, can play the slot. Like, you get him in space, good luck. Even when you try to, like, bottle him in, he's just like a mouse. He finds that little crevice, and he's able to just move forward and find more yards. Great hands for a freshman. I don't see it very often. It's elite guys have it. It's a developing trait we're starting to talk about a little bit more and more. Late hands. Jace Brown got late hands. And that makes it very difficult for a DB to defend you. A lot of times they're not looking at the ball. So they're looking for when your hand movement goes, when your eyes get big. If you can master that out of just like Marvin Harrison got that. Malik Nabis got that. This kid has that. I'm not saying he's in that class, but he has that ability. Give me all of that, especially with this young kid. I think that combination is going to be electric this year.
I think people are sleeping on Kansas State, and because when you think of Kansas State, you don't really think of a powerhouse. You don't really think of playmakers, but they have something brewing there. And Jace Brown is a guy that flashed, and he flashed as a freshman. And
Yes.
this coming season is going to be his wide receiver room. He's got every chance to be that wide receiver one, like you were saying. So I think that is a great buy. Do you have another buy?
I got another buy. It's probably a guy nobody's talking about, but his quarterback balled out last year in Garrett Green. So I'm going to fly out to West Virginia. Give me Hudson Clement. Okay? This is a dude nobody talked about. He wasn't supposed to be the guy, but all of a sudden last year, I don't know, he was catching long bombs, long touchdowns, burning guys off the line of scrimmage. And you're like, oh, what's going on? Garrett Green's finding this dude. I just don't get it. Like 30 targets, 22 receptions. That's pretty good, reception rate. I'll take that. 480 yards, 21.8 yards per catch. You're talking about a dude. If you're throwing in the ball, it's downfield. It's going to be a big play. Probably going to get you close to the end zone. Like, he just 8 out of 15. He's talking him downfield. He just knows how to get open. He's not the most twitchiest guy, right? But his route tree is a little bit expanded. He's getting better and better. If you watch as the season went on, wasn't getting many targets in the beginning. It was just more of like beat the coverage, broken down play. Clement's open. And then they were starting to scheme him up towards the end of the year. Garrett Green started getting his bag. What happened? Clement starts getting more options, more targets. I think this kid, in the Mayo Bowl, he went off. Like, yeah, I think he had 2 touchdowns in the Mayo Bowl. So it's like, they're finding the kid. I think Hudson Clement is a bargain buy that could put you in the, blue light special.
Yeah, He first came to my attention. I think he had a one game in the regular season where he had like over like 150 yards.
Yes.
But that
3
game, I was
touchdowns.
like, yeah, I was like, whoa. I was like, what is this? And then in the bowl game, I watched them, and he was beating his corner left and right, just absolutely playing with him. So I really do like that call. And I I have someone that's also coming to West Virginia. He's not on the show sheet, but this is a guy that what pretty much what garnered me a lot of attention is this past season. Before the season started, I went on record multiple times and even did an article about a Kevin Casey Concepcion. I said he was going to be my dark horse freshman of the year. He's going to be my sleeper. And once he blew up, that's how people noticed me. And that's how, I got to where I am right now. And my dark horse right now for this upcoming class is West Virginia wide receiver Day Farmer. He is likely going to be playing out of the slot, so he doesn't hurt your guy, Hudson Clement, because he plays more out wide. Day Farmer is a guy that you should watch for. This guy, his tape, his film, he is electric. This guy reminds me of Zay Flowers so much.
Ooh.
So this is a guy that nobody is talking about. His senior year, he was hurt. He missed 7 games. He is outside the top, I believe, outside the top 700, I want to say. I believe he's like a low 4-star or a high 3-star kid. Day Farmer. This is a guy that I absolutely love his tape. He's going to West Virginia. So Garrett Green, who's the quarterback, he's going to have Day Farmer and he's going to have a Hudson Clement. West Virginia is going to be loaded next year. They have a chance to compete for the Big 12. So I do love that call with Hudson Clement for West Virginia. I have 2 guys that I'm going to be buying. The first one is Pofele Ashlock for Hawaii. We talked about Hawaii earlier. They're doing the modern day run and shoot. This is a guy, he is so smart as a receiver. He knows where to sit down in the soft coverage of a zone. He doesn't overrun it. He will sit in it and he will show his numbers to the quarterback. He is someone that is a really good playmaker. He just finds a way to win, and he is a guy that is going to be a redshirt sophomore next year. I believe he has top 10 CFF potential, and he is someone that you need to buy. On Fantrax, he is 10% rostered. He must be drafted in your C2C supplemental drafts. This is a guy that will be a league winner for you.
Didn't even stop playing football till like senior year of high school, right? Like 0 stars, wasn't recruited pretty much to anywhere. Kid came in there with a chip on his shoulder and it's just absolutely dominant. I love the fact that you said shows his numbers to the QB, because that's what he does. Like, he literally will sit in a pocket, boom, get me the ball. And once he gets the ball, gone.
Yep, absolutely love it. And then one final guy that I am buying at the wide receiver position is Jared Brown, formerly of Coastal Carolina. He was a guy that I've been enamored with for the past couple of seasons. He just never had the opportunities with Coastal Carolina. With this past season, Coastal Carolina, they moved on from their system. They use a different kind of system that really wasn't to his liking, but he still produced and he still showed out. He now transfers to South Carolina, and he is going to be the slot guy for them. Now, with South Carolina, what they are now having at quarterback is Lenora Sellers. When you have a young quarterback and your run game with Rocket Sanders is working, what do you need? You need a safety blanket, that security blanket, and that's going to be Jared Brown of South Carolina. So he is a buy for me.
I love Jared. I thought he was a better player out in Coastal Carolina. I liked him better than Sam Pickney. Sam Pickney was your outside guy, obviously, so they play a different style of receiver. But I like Brown's game. He's that dirt dog, grinder, like, just eats it up in the middle of the field, has no problem going across, not afraid to get hit, right? Like, he's that type of dude. My only concern with that is they brought in Gage, right? They brought in Gage from Miami, Ohio. Like, kind of play a similar role, big chunk yardage. But I think they understand they got a rookie QB. They just need to have weapons that they can get the ball to quickly.
Yeah. Now, is there any tight ends that you're going to be buying for the CFF landscape?
I got one. Arlis Ballingham out of Florida. Big body receiver. You know, kind of didn't really get to see much of it because they didn't really use him a lot in the beginning of the year. Kind of towards the end of the year, they used him, but Mertz really wasn't on the same page with him. There was a lot of times where he was open and they didn't get him the ball, but he was a guy that in the red zone can become a target. Like I said, big body guy, 225, 235. Like, he's only a freshman last year, so like I think in that system this year, a lot more. You think about it, you got weapons around him. Better going to be getting better. Wilson will be getting better next year, right? Like Mertz had his best season in completion percentage. Maybe he'll get a little bit better, but you have Lagway. So if for some reason they need to bring in a guy that's electric to change it up, you have Lagway. I think that Florida's got a young team with a lot of talent. They haven't had a tight end in quite some time. I think the last tight end they had that was really, really good, played for the Patriots, and we've seen what happened there. I think he could be a guy. I really do. I think he could be like a Jaheim Bell without the running aspect to his game.
Yes, he is a uber athlete, and I love that call. He is someone that's going to be fun to watch for Florida. Florida is a young team. You know, next year, yeah, it's going to be Graham Mertz, but once DJ Lagway is there with Wilson and Boardingham, it's going to be takeoff.
Yeah.
Now, here at the Devy Digest, what we do is we cover player profiles. Now, we're getting you ready for your rookie draft. So every show, we're going to do a Devy profile. We're going to do a CFF profile to get you ready for your C2C sub drafts. And we're going to give you an under the radar freshman profile to get you ready for those drafts as well. Now, for today's episode, who we are covering is the Devy Digest player of the day is Xavier Worthy. He is 6'1", 172 pounds, wide receiver out of Texas. He is the best field stretcher in this class. Now, he will be involved as a returner, so he brings that dimension to the game. He's a nuanced route runner that doesn't get enough credit. He has quick acceleration, has nice burst. Now, he creates after the catch. He can win short and long. You give him a screen, he will take it to the house. We saw what he did against Wyoming when they did that. Now, his profile will look a lot better had Quinn Ewers hit him on those deep passes. There are bunch of reps that you see on tape where Xavier Worthy has his defender beat by a yard, yard and a half, 2 yards, and Quinn Ewers simply misses him. Now, if he makes a couple of those, the outlook on Worthy will be a lot different. Now, he does have his negative traits. He doesn't have the best catching technique. He does have a slight build, and I am afraid that at the next level, he could be that Hollywood Brown type. Now, the CFF player of the day is a guy that we talked about earlier. That's Avery Johnson. Absolutely love this guy. He is 6'2", 188 pounds. He came in as a true freshman weighing at 170 pounds. So he's already gained 18 pounds already. And we saw his strength as a true freshman. He is, as Nino said, the highest rated recruit ever at Kansas State. As a true freshman, he played he did fantastic. 5 rushing touchdowns in 1 game. Kansas State chose Avery Johnson over Will Howard. He's a really instinctive runner, a verified 4.54 in the 40, and he fits what Kansas State wants in that system. It's true dual threat quarterback. Now, as Nino said earlier, he does have that awkward throwing motion, so he does need to improve his mechanics, and I would like to see him add about 10 more pounds, and that would complete his profile. The under-the-radar freshman profile of the day today is going to be Kansas running back Harry Stewart. He is 5'10", 205 pounds. And if you guys know me, you know I love those 5'10", 210 backs. He's a 4-star in the composites, as high as running back 43 and as low as running back 65 in the composites. He averages out to be running back 53, and he's a tier 4 running back for me. He is a good lateral mover. He fights through contact. He has good burst. He's a really good receiver as well. Now with this, he is a downhill runner. He has good contact balance, and he has a very good play strength. What I like about him as a receiver is he will high point the ball and catch it away from his frame. You don't see many running backs do that. Now, he has a chance in his first year to be the RB3 there. Devin Neal comes back. Daniel Highshaw comes back. Both are seniors, and then they're done. So Stewart can earn that 3rd running back position, and then he can earn that bigger role in 2025. All we need is for him to flash a little bit, and the coaching staff will absolutely love him. In Devy drafts, you aren't taking him yet, but in C2C sub drafts, he is worth a late round ad. So those are the player profiles of the day. Now, Nino, what do you have in the works? You are nonstop grinding. You are literally working like 20 hours out of the day. You are doing everything. All the things you do with the CFB Nation, all the things you do with your endeavors with the Dynasty Degens. You are out there. You are covering all of the ground. Nino, tell me what you got going on, man.
Like I said, 5 days, man. Going to Senior Bowl with the CFB Nation. We're locking in. Last year we did, I want to say 25 player interviews. So we did some on field. We did some in the conference room with them. So I'm trying to hit that number again. Like, I'm trying not to fanboy with Bo, because I've been a big fan of Bo since the Auburn days. So I was there for the bad, and now I got the good. So just doing that, but like just trying to grow the CFB Nation brand. I got got shows with KT that we did one today, Overreaction. Obviously brought you on. I'm a big fan of your work. We got the Welcome to the Big House, which I don't have to do the podcast, but I get to produce. So it's a different lane for me. I enjoy it. I do the Twitter for us as well, and then try to get the knowledge out there of all the players in this crazy wild portal and these commitments and recruits coming in. But I mean, I'm a sicko, man. You talk about me. You grind just as much as me, man. It's just something that's in our DNA, and when you fall down that rabbit hole, right, you just can't come out of it.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Now, everyone that is on X, you need to follow Nino. You can find him at __ Nino Brown __. He is a must follow. You need to follow him. Now, if you've enjoyed this episode and enjoy my content, enjoy my work, you can find my audio and video shows every Sunday and every Wednesday. They air live through the Devy Digest show, powered by League Winners. They air the next day on Spotify and Apple every Monday and Thursday. On Tuesdays, we do the Welcome to the Big House through the CFB Nation with Nino Brown producing it, and it airs a couple of days later on Spotify and Apple. For my written content, you can find them through the League Winners. Every Monday, we do a 2024 Devy Digest player profile. We get you ready for your rookie drafts. Every Friday, we do a Devy Digest Freshman Friday player profile to get you ready for your C2C and Devy sub drafts. Every Wednesday and Friday, we do content on Utah State, and BYU football. We're getting you ready for the spring camp, and we're going to bring exclusive behind the scenes content with those three schools. Now, we'll be back next week, but before we go, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and you can follow me at Andy _fam1, and you can follow Nino. That is at __ Nino Brown __. So follow him definitely. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, give us a rate and review, and we'll see you next time on the Devy Digest.